Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a massive, utterly exhausting problem that's quietly draining founders everywhere. You know the feeling, right? If you feel like you're constantly performing, always trying to project this flawless, bulletproof image to your audience, well, you're going to want to pay close attention. As a strategic advisor, I see founders literally burning out over this every single day. So today, we're breaking down a concept known as the perfection tax, and we'll explore how you can replace it with the incredible power of narrative endurance.
So let me ask you straight up, are you paying the perfection tax? So many of us experience this intense, daily internal friction, and it comes directly from trying to perform a flawless character online instead of just sharing your genuine traveler's truth. It's that heavy, exhausting pressure to always look like you're winning, to always have all the answers, and to absolutely never let them see you sweat. But what does this tax actually cost you? Well, the perfection tax is the literal loss of connection and trust that happens when you hide the messy middle. Think about it. When you only broadcast the mountain peaks, the big wins, and the record-breaking months, you're usually trying to engineer a specific response from your audience. But here's the crazy irony. It actually damages your brand. Why? Because human beings don't actually connect with perfection. It's alienating. What they really connect with is persistence.
Okay, let's dive into this, because there are two very different paths you can take here. First, you've got the hero. This is a peak-only foundation. It's performing a character, constantly acting as the untouchable expert. And honestly, it's completely exhausting. But then you have the traveler. The traveler completely embraces the messy middle. They share the boring days, and they act as the example rather than the expert. The traveler provides high-fidelity proof of their reality, and that reality is exactly why buyers actually trust them. You simply cannot build a lasting, sovereign brand on a peak-only foundation.
Which brings us to the dreaded, quiet, middle silence. We all know the feeling. What happens when founders aren't actively winning or launching something new? Panic sets in, and they go totally silent. They're terrified that if they aren't announcing some massive breakthrough, their audience will just lose respect for them. But the reality is the exact opposite. In that silence, trust actually erodes. You lose the momentum and the connection you worked so hard to build simply because you disappear the second things get real.
To really anchor this, let's look at a micro story of the messy middle from an actual founder's journey. Year 1, grinding away in the basement without any real breakthrough. Year 2, dealing with the heavy doubt of watching friends get promoted and moving ahead in corporate jobs while you just feel totally stuck. Year 3, that moment of almost quitting entirely, but choosing to stay. Sharing a timeline like this, it's not a lack of authority or a sign of weakness. No way. It is the absolute high-fidelity proof of your endurance.
And the result of sharing that? Well, when the author of our source material finally decided to share that messy timeline and that super dark moment of almost quitting, the audience didn't leave. They didn't lose respect. They actually doubled, literally doubled, because they saw themselves in that quiet middle. They realized that if the creator could stay the course through the hard times, they had permission to stay in their own game too.
Everyone always wants to tell the story of the finish line. But honestly, the finish line is the least interesting part of the race. The real story? That happens at mile 18. It happens when your legs feel like lead and you desperately want to quit, because that's where your character is built, right? That is where mastery is actually forged. Showing the sweat, not just the shiny trophy, is what deeply resonates with people.
So how do we actually formalize this approach? We use what's called the Endurance Narrative Protocol. This is all about utilizing your documented persistence and the slow compounding of life as the primary architectural brick of a high-trust identity. This is your strategic solution to the perfection tax. Your story isn't just fluffy content, it's the verifiable evidence of your endurance.
Think about the difference in strategies here. On one hand, you have viral spikes. We're all kind of waiting for that movie moment where the music swells and everything changes in an instant. That those spikes are erratic, they're unpredictable, and ultimately they're just short-term marketing tactics. On the other hand, you have the compounding asset of storytelling. Consistency is the ultimate narrative. If you want to build a truly sovereign brand, you don't need a viral story to be heard. You need a reliable story that builds trust over time, because each shared struggle actually increases the weight of the eventual win. So, what does this compounding asset actually look like day to day? Well, it's about documenting the growth of your soul. It's sharing a new lesson you learned from a stupid mistake. It's a small shift in perspective you had over your morning coffee. It's the story of waking up on a rainy Tuesday and choosing to be disciplined for one more day, doing the work anyway. Showing up and sharing these moments when nobody is watching, That's what builds a powerful bridge of shared experience. We really need to shift our identity away from being the entertainer. Someone desperately seeking applause, constantly waiting for that big cinematic explosion. Instead, we have to pivot to becoming the lighthouse. A lighthouse stands firm, it's grounding, it reassures and guides others through the winding valley, giving them permission to stay in their own game. It's a fundamental, deeply comforting shift in how you view your role.
If there's just one thing you take away from this entire explainer, let it be this. Your story doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be yours, consistently told. Take a second to really let that sink in. Honesty, not hype, is the ultimate foundation of a founder's authority. Your endurance is the foundation of that authority.
Let's put this into practice. Here are 3 clear steps to transition into a true sovereign brand that's built on persistence over performance. Step 1, stop trying to be the expert and start being the example. Step 2, push deeper. Show the sweat, the mile 18 struggle, not just the shiny trophy at the end. And finally, step 3, invite people to witness a transformation. Don't just sell a product. Passionately invite them to walk alongside you. That invitation is literally the most powerful sales tool in existence.
Which brings us to our final takeaway. If you're ready to use your story to build a movement and really master this long game, our sources highly recommend checking out 365 Freedom. It's the perfect logical pivot for moving from an exhausted entertainer to a reliable lighthouse for those who are still in their own quiet middle. So my final question to you is this. What would happen to your brand and your peace of mind if you decided to permanently stop paying the perfection tax today?